Welcome to Jazz Time! Jazz Time is an online store that buys, sells, and trades authentic luxury watches. We make these videos so our customers can easily choose the best watch for themselves in the comfort of their own home. If you like this watch and would like to buy it, click the link in the description below to buy it at jazztime.com. Today, I'm going to be reviewing the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Self-Winding Chronograph Rose Gold with a blue dial. Reference 26715OR.OO.1356OR.01. I'm going to talk to you about the bezel, the dial, the case, the bracelet, the movement, try it on, and give you my thoughts. So let's start with the case. This watch is a Royal Oak. It is part of the Royal Oak line, and Audemars Piguet makes 4 basic lines: the Royal Oak, the Offshore, the Concept, and the Code 1159. The Royal Oak is their most popular and most successful line ever. It was created in 1972 by Gerald Genta, and this marks its 51st anniversary in production. And in fact, it was the first luxury sports watch ever created in the world, and thereafter all the rest have followed. Even Patek Philippe, the great Patek Philippe, has never followed, basically copied, and even used the same designer, Gerald Genta, to create their Nautilus. Now, copying, yes, they did. Is it a bad thing? Not necessarily, because the Nautilus is also a beautiful watch, but they did copy Audemars Piguet, which is not a bad company to copy, and it's also not a bad watch to copy, because the Royal Oak, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many others, is the world's greatest sports watch. It might not be the greatest sports watch in terms of its price, but for many, many reasons, which we are going to talk about, it's widely known as the greatest sports watch. And that title belongs to AP, specifically the Royal Oak. So with all of that said, this watch right here is 38 millimeters, and that is from the 8 o'clock to the 2 o'clock position, the longest distance across the bezel. And the Royal Oak initially came out and it was a size 39. It was also called the Jumbo 51 years ago. Now, since they made it in all different sizes, the current production is in size 41, which is the normal size, and then the 39, which is kind of like their throwback size. They still call it a Jumbo 39, and that is for men, and they also make a 37. The 37 is both for men and women, but for the Chronograph, because it is a little bit bigger, they make it in a size 38. And actually, this can be worn by both men and women. And now, for those considering a size 38, I would say if your wrist is smaller than 7 inches, which equates to approximately a person of 160 pounds, if your wrist size is smaller than that 7 inches, I think you should definitely consider the 38. If you have a larger wrist than that, you should definitely consider the 41. It's all about wrist size, and why do we say that? Because a larger watch will fit on a larger wrist better. It's as simple as that. Now, with all of that said, the 38mm came out approximately 15 years ago, or maybe 10 years ago, something like that, and they came out with it because they realized that these 41mm were just too big, and a lot of people who are not 160 pounds, and there's plenty of people who are smaller than that with a smaller wrist size under 7 inches, and they need to make watches that can accommodate all of them, and they wisely did so, which is what you see here. A 38mm chronograph. And so this size chronograph can actually be worn by men and women, because I have sold these to both men and women. And they make ones like this that have diamond bezels on them, and plenty of women wear those. But at the same time, if you're a man and you have a smaller wrist, well then this will be a perfect watch for you. So a 38mm watch is considered a unisex watch. Okay, now since we are talking about the case, this case has a 70s design to it. It's sort of Art Deco. It's unmistakably AP Royal Oak. It has beautiful satin finish over top, and then the beveled edges, it's a high polish. Now let's talk about the bezel here. The bezel is probably the most iconic part of this watch. It's unmistakably AP Royal Oak, in fact, and it uses an octagon. Now, other brands such as the Patek Philippe Nautilus or Girard-Perregaux Loretto also use this octagonal bezel, but nobody does it quite like... also the overseas Vacheron, they do it too, but nobody does it quite like AP because they did it first, because it's the greatest design. And here you have it in front of you. Now, what is so special about And here you have it in front of you. Now, what is so special is that they use an octagonal bezel with a satin finish on top with a high polished bevel edge, and it has these hexagonal screws. But they're not actually screws. They're just these screw acceptors. The screws come from the back. And so it gives the watch sort of like, I was told that Giordenta had the inspiration from one of those diving helmets that they used like 50 years ago. When you went diving, you had this big metal helmet that you had to put over your head, and that glass frame to look out of was what inspired the shape of this bezel. And you can see that it does kind of look like that. It looks like if you unscrewed it, it could just come out like the diving helmet. Okay, alright, now that is the bezel, and let's move on to the dial here. Now, the dial is a blue dial. They make it in several different versions. They made it, I think, in a silver dial. They made it, what else? A few other dial configurations. Black, I think, with a black diamond. They also made it in a white dial with a diamond bezel, probably specifically made for women. I believe they also made other ones. Now, AP calls this the Blue Newt 50 with a grand tapisserie pattern and pink gold applied hour markers and luminescent coating over the hands. Now, what all of that means is if I shine a light on it, the excellent part of this watch, it is very visible at night. It's easily legible. All of these white marks that you see here, they're all luminescent. And the dial, this kind of waffle pattern that they have on it, it's called a grand tapisserie. Now, if you go to the offshore, which is the bigger version of the Royal Oak, it'll have a mega tapisserie. This is the grand tapisserie. Grand, I suppose, means small tapisserie? I don't know. They could have just called it the waffle or block. But I think tapisserie sounds a little bit nicer than that, which probably means something in French. Anyways, that's the dial, and I really do love the blue on the rose gold. The blue and rose gold, it's a fantastic combination. You really can't beat it. And now let's move down to the bracelet. Now, the bracelet here, in my opinion, and the opinion of many others, is the best bracelet of any watch, period. Now, why would they say that? Well, first let's look at the finishing. The finishing uses a beautiful satin finish over the top, and then all the inner links have a small high polish on the central links. And then on the edge, it has another high polish. Now, what that does, it allows the bracelet to glisten, to sparkle, and almost look like it's a diamond. And what else had they done with this watch is the newer generation is they made the bracelet a little bit thinner so they can taper it a little bit better. Now, I don't have an older version to show you right here, but the reference 26315, this is the 26715, had a bracelet that did not taper as well as this one did, and it didn't fit the wrist as well as this one. So AP has really done a good job trying to make the ergonomics fit and make the watch fit as best as they can while you wear them, so it seems that is one with your body. Okay, now let's talk about the movement here. Now, unfortunately, you cannot see the movement. The movement is using a 2385 movement. It has 304 parts, the power reserve of 40 hours. Now, I have to say that is kind of one little bummer about this watch, that AP is going through at the moment a change when they're changing all of their watches to newer movements. Now, the caliber 2385, if I'm not mistaken, came out in 1995. It's a long time ago. It's almost 30 years ago. It's a very old caliber. Now, having an old caliber is not necessarily a bad thing. It's not like an engine. Engines on cars have, electronic parts that need to get charged and get out of date very fast. These are mechanical, small mechanical parts that don't really go bad. In fact, this movement has been out for like 20 years. They're still currently using this as of 2023, even though it has been out for so long. And why? Well, because it doesn't really go bad. It's tried, it's tested and true, and it's going to perform exactly as it should be, and it's a thin movement. It keeps the watch, by the way, let me turn it on the side profile. The thickness of this watch is only 11 millimeters. Now, to give you some reference, a Rolex Datejust, which only tells the time and date, is 12 millimeters. And this watch, date, time, and chronograph, is still a bit thinner than that Rolex. And so that tells you that this is a very good movement. In fact, it is such a good movement that they've kept using it for 30 years. Now, with all of that said, they have not opened the case back, so you cannot see the beautiful movement, which I wish they would show, because if you go to their website, you can look at the movement, and it's actually kind of the only way you can see it, and it looks beautiful. It has beautiful finishing. It has a gold rotor. They did all of this time and effort to make it beautiful, but they're covering it up. I just don't get it. So what they are probably going to do moving forward is make in-house movements that are 1, a little bit larger, and 2, have an exhibition case back so that people can admire it. But anyways, it's a small thing, it's not a major thing because it's still an automatic movement, it's still beautiful, and I guess on the other hand, instead of looking at glass, you can see the movements, you get to see pure gold. Looking at the back of the case, it's literally gold, so also not a bad thing. Alright, so that's the movement. Now let me try it on and give you my thoughts. I am 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, and my wrist size is 7.5 inches. And as I kind of alluded to earlier, I think that 38 millimeters is a little small on me. I think if you probably have a wrist size like mine, you would probably need to go with a 41. But anyway, you can imagine what it would look like on you, even though it's on me. And you can see that it exudes a high-class quality, beauty, and style. And as I said in the beginning of the video, AP is the #1 when it comes to sports watches. I know other brands make it. They make great sports watches. Richard Mille makes amazing sports watches. Patek makes an awesome Nautilus and Aquanauts. But if you compare them side by side with the AP Royal Oak, it wins every single time. Maybe not in price, but if you just compare them side by side, and AP has really laid into sports watches, and they've decided that they're just going to make the ultimate sports watch that they have it. It makes sense. It shows, and it makes sense why they would beat everybody else out when it comes to sports watches, because Patek Philippe is not really spending all that much time and effort trying to make a sports watch. They're making dress watches, and so it makes sense. So anyways, those are my thoughts. You really can't go wrong with the Royal Oak. I think almost every watch collector or watch lover at some point is going to want to collect or own a Royal Oak. It's just one of those iconic watches. It's like a must-have if you really love watches, and we should all aspire to get one. Once you decide that you're going to get one, please click the link in the description below and go to jazztime.com, because that's where you can buy it at the cheapest price anywhere online. It's the reason we make these videos. We want you to buy it at JazzTime, not somewhere else, because it's cheaper with us. So when you eventually decide to get a Royal Oak, there's going to be a lot of different sizes, a lot of different materials, etc. Go to our website, check out your option, and pick it.
If you want to find out more about the watch you just saw in the video, you can just click below on Show More to see the full description. Then you can check the link next to Model as seen in video, click on it, and you will get to the proper page where you can see all the details. If you're watching on a mobile phone, you have to click on the arrow down on the right hand side below the video to see the full description. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. If you would like to share this video with your friends, you can use the share button below and share it on any platform you like. If you have questions, constructive feedback, want to tell us about some mistakes or misspeaks, just write a comment below. If you want to see more videos like this, you should subscribe to our channel and visit our channel page where you can find all the videos. And if you're interested in a specific watch brand, you can check out our playlists. If you want to check the price for a watch or want to buy one, remember at jazztime.com you always get a steep discount, so you should check the prices with us. If you want to know the price for a specific watch, just go to Google, type in JazzTime, plus the brand, model, and the details you're interested in, and Google will find the right page for you. Thank you for watching.